So you're talking about tones and frequencies and things like that that they would listen to open up a higher state of consciousness, to get in tune with God, quite literally, to hear these tones.
Well, not necessarily tones, but ratios.
Okay.
It's the important concept here are what are called ratios.
Okay.
So if I have a tone that's 420 cycles a second, and then I have a tone that's 840 cycles a second, and that's the ratio of an octave.
Mm-hmm.
So when those two tones are played in succession, then when your mind hears, because your mind remembers the previous tone and then compares it with the subsequent tone, and the waveforms produced have specific shapes. They actually, you can, with dust on metal plates and what have you, you can actually see these waveforms, particularly with the type of oscilloscope I developed that called the time television, which turns the music into an actual three-dimensional entity that you can see on the screen. Each one of these notes has a shape like an atom. So when you start dividing the intervals up, each one of these becomes a more and more complicated. The fifth and the third and the fourth, and all of these become a more and more complicated entity.
Mm-hmm.
And your mind is assembling that entity. Now, when you sound the tone simultaneously, then you get the physical that you can see on the oscilloscope, which makes actual geometric patterns in the space that permeate your body.
Yeah.
Just like an electric field.
Mm-hmm. Because
now,
the body is
highly dependent on, it can't be, it does not work the same way every day. It's like my car is designed to sense the electric environment around me with a set of antennas on that. When I drive under these million-volt DC power lines, it causes all this fire to come off my antennas. Mm-hmm. And I can measure the voltage on the power lines and the polarity that way. And when I worked in LA, I had, for decades, I had to drive under this power line going out of town every day, and I kept a detailed record of the daily response. And even though everything looks the same one day to the next day, there'll be some days the fire will be there, there'll be some days the fire won't. There'll be some days it's more commented on the positive wire than the negative wire as I drive through it, because there's something polarizing space. And this is the planets and the sun and the universe polarizes space, and music works through that polarization by adding on top of it.
So the theory works, but it doesn't work every day. It's almost like if you was to try the same method every day, it's going to be close, but it's not going to be exact. Is that what you're saying?
You may not get the same effects.
Mm-hmm.
See, and this is part of what the responsibility of the church was, is when they know these things were happening, and that's when it was time to fire the apparatus up.
Could anything backfire on you, though? So, like, if you're saying that something that produces a positive effect, would that same method in turn produce a negative effect on a different day, or are you pretty much...
Well, what I've determined in my decades of, listening to music and what have you, and devoting myself to it, is it's usually a heightened or lessened situation. Like, one day a piece of music might just have an absolutely profound effect on you, and then another day it just goes right through you, and it doesn't have any effect. It's not like it becomes negative, unless the music is designed to be negative.
Yeah.
Which today's music is designed to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not harmonic, and it cannot tap into these energies.
Mm-hmm.
So today's music really is kind of more of a mechanical expression, so to say. It's like music in this zone. There's a lot of music zones. This is one of the things I do with the HF radio in my car, and I used to have a very massive installation for this with giant antennas that use the entire Earth as a stereo. So if there was a station broadcasting music in China, I could hear its reverberations all around the Earth and receive it in stereo and use the Earth as a concert hall.
Mm-hmm.
And the effects of the change from day to day were absolutely stunning when this happened.
Yeah.
So what I found from years and years of, analyzing the HF band and all these signals, on a wider scale just than for music, it's kind of, it's like something the National Security Agency would have, this massive facility with spectrum analyzers. And I kind of kept an eye on the HF band so that it wouldn't interfere with my operations or operations of the organizations or companies in which I was working with. And I learned a lot about the nature of music in different areas, and you can basically take the Earth and make vertical bands from the North Pole down to the equator of pretty much equal width, just like time zones, and each one of those widths is all the music in those particular countries or areas will have the same character to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you go from China and you start to move across to go back towards Europe, and you go through another band like India, and then you go through another band which contains the Middle East countries, another band that contains Europe. Each of these bands has specific type of music, and not all of them are of the Pythagorean ratios. There's quite a few different ratio systems out there.
Okay. So whenever people are listening to different tones and frequencies to get into like a trance-like state through a meditation, is this somewhat the same principle? Can it be applied? The tones that put you into a happy state when you hear a sound, or make you feel frustrated, and things like that whenever you hear a certain sound. Is the same principle applying?
Yeah, if I take, like I just said, the 420, 840 cycles, and I sound those tones in succession or in parallel, that produces a positive feeling, a feeling of like conclusion, or I don't know exactly how to describe it, because I don't think in those type of terms, but it's like, it has a feeling of completeness to it. But then, if I sound the tone of 420 cycles next to one of 490 cycles, it sounds horrid, and it doesn't make you feel good, and you want to turn it off.
Yeah.